In 2020, the Cumbres and Toltec was poised to celebrate its 50th anniversary of operation as a tourist railroad. However, due to a worldwide pandemic, the plans were postponed until 2021. A significant part of this celebration was a week-long event titled the Victorian Iron Horse Roundup, in which 4 steam locomotives would be featured, each one built prior to 1900. A set of newly restored wooden passenger cars were also included, meticulously restored to original condition through cooperation between the railroad and the all-volunteer Friends of the Cumbres and Toltec organization. The Victorian Iron Horse Roundup officially began with trips out of Antonito, Colorado on Saturday, August 21st. Most of the events would focus on the Antonito side of the railroad due to its gentler grades. But on Friday, August 27th, the locomotives and historic consist were moved across the railroad to Chama, New Mexico for the conclusion of the week-long extravaganza. I caught up with the train at Los Pinos around 4 p.m. They had departed Antonito over an hour late and would run considerably behind schedule all day. After a run-by at the bridge, a crew swap took place before pulling up to the water tower to replenish the tenors of the thirsty locomotives. With a few photographic effects, it's hard to really tell exactly what year it is. Arrival at Cumbres Pass was around 6 p.m. The 168 was cut off and parked in the snow shed for the night. Reportedly, the crew was running out of time on hours of service and there was no one available to relieve them. The Eureka is a wood-burning 440 American-style locomotive built by Baldwin in 1875 for the Eureka and Palisades Railroad in Nevada. In 1939, it was purchased by Warner Brothers and used in several films. By 1980, it had been sold again and placed on display in the Old Vegas Amusement Park in Henderson, Nevada. While there, in 1985, a fire erupted and badly damaged the engine. It was purchased by a Las Vegas lawyer named Dan Markoff, who painstakingly restored it in a specially built garage at his Las Vegas home. It made a trip to the Cumbres and Toltec in 1997, but has operated more recently on the Durango and Silverton and on a display track at the Nevada State Railroad Museum in Boulder City, Nevada. The Glen Brook is a wood-burning 260 mogul-type locomotive built by Baldwin in 1875 for the Carson and Tahoe Lumber and Fluming Company. It was donated to the Nevada State Railroad Museum in Carson City, Nevada, and restored to operating condition in 2015. This is its first trip on trackage outside the museum since its return to service, and it needed to be modified for the trip with the inclusion of air brakes on the tender and an air compressor mounted on the engineer's side. Since neither the Eureka or the Glen Brook have a front coupler, a drawbar was used to connect the two engines. The Eureka and Glen Brook topped off with wood, then added two empty boxcars that had been dropped off on the siding earlier in the week by the regular passenger train. These two extra cars would provide much needed extra braking effort going down the 4% grades to Chama. The 425 took about 2 hours to cover the 17 miles downhill to Chama, arriving well after dark around 9 o'clock. The Eureka and Glen Brook followed, but didn't get into Chama until after 10:30. Saturday's schedule called for a busy day on the railroad's west end. First, the 168 would come down the hill light. A look around the Chama yards and shops showed preparations for the day's activities. The 425 is a 280 consolidation, built by Baldwin in 1895 for the Florence and Cripple Creek Railroad. It was eventually purchased by the Denver and Rio Grande, then retired in 1949 to a city park in Durango. The Durango Railroad Historical Society restored it to operation in 2007 as number 315, the number it held by DNRGW when retired. It has operated both on the Durango and Silverton and Cumbres and Toltec, but has spent the last few years on the CNTS. It was returned to its original DNRG number of 425 for this event. Locomotive 168 is a 460 10-wheeler, built by Baldwin for the Denver and Rio Grande in 1883. With 46-inch drivers, quite large for a narrow-gauge steam locomotive, the 168 was used primarily in passenger service. It was eventually retired and placed on display in Colorado Springs. The Cumbres and Toltec acquired it in 2016 and restored it to operation in 2019. 2021 has been its first year of real use, being used on rare occasions for special events. The regular excursion train headed out with K36 number 487 just after 10 a.m. .487 is designated as a K36 type 282 Mikado locomotive, built by Baldwin Locomotive Works in 1925. The K36 type is the workhorse of the narrow-gauge Cumbres and Toltec. They have 4 of them in operation. On the rear of the regular excursion train is a gondola loaded with wood to be dropped off at Lobato siding. The 2 empty boxcars would be dropped off at Cumbres Summit to assist in braking for other trains later in the day.
I'm not sure exactly what they're doing.
The Eureka and Glen Brook were scheduled to follow the daily excursion with a short consist of historic cars about 15 minutes later for a run to the summit. Delays with the engines kept the train from departing until around 11:30.
Depends on who's running the engine, I guess.
Sir! Thank you!
The two wood burners consume an incredible amount of fuel, so they did stop leaving Chama Yard to top off, then again at Lobato. The next stop was scheduled for the water tank at Cresco. However, once stopped for water, they had trouble getting going again. Eureka was not firing well and couldn't keep boiler pressure up. The crews didn't know it yet, but the blow arrangement in Eureka's smoke box had come apart. Meanwhile, I got some shots of the regular excursion train on its way back to Chama. Glen Brook tried to get the historic train going on its own, but just didn't have quite enough power. 425 was eventually dispatched up the hill to assist the stalled train. After several hours of debating and adjusting the plan, it was decided to let the regular day excursion pass at Cresco, then use the 425 to guide the crippled train back to Chama. The special train had a slow trip down the hill due to having a shortage of brakes, so it didn't arrive until almost 7:30. Then the 425 was quickly switched into a new consist with the 168 and the historic cars to run a dinner train to Cumbres. The dinner train made an after-dark departure around 8:45, nearly 4 hours later than scheduled. Meanwhile, back in the yard, a few of us enjoyed an impromptu night photo session. The following day concluded the Victorian Iron Horse Roundup with an overnight train back to Antonito, utilizing the 168, 425, and the 4 historic coaches. Unfortunately, I was not able to wait around for that, as moonlight train rides are usually spectacular with the sounds of the steam engine echoing through the crisp mountain air.